how to start this. I'm working on a master, right? And I thought it would be pretty interesting to look at, clipping. I don't know. I'm not really making a video because of what the YouTube algorithm is feeding me, but simply because I'm working on this master. It's like one of those quick turnaround masters that's going to be mainly used for promotional gain and less for album work. You may end up in situations where they just need something presentable, right? And I like to use these moments as good ways to test out certain things. And so if you remember my mastering converters video, I listened to how they use the Orion to clip and limit the song, whatever they were playing. And when I got my Orion, I decided to test it out. All right, to make it easier on myself, I went ahead and just bounced all the files. So we're not previewing this in real time, and we can just bounce through the files. So you see the peaks on the Neve, they're there and a little bit enhanced in the API. Then when you start doing the converters on the Orion, they just started dwindling down. Now down here is the original that I bounced. This is this mk2. If I plop it up here, you can see how it compares with the Neve and the API with some of these peaks being enhanced. That's sort of what the silver bullet will do to a lot of these transits. It will actually bring it out. So there's a difference between clipping through the converter and overdriving it or saturating it through these transformers. But let's just go down the line, give them a listen. There's a tonal difference and almost like a choking difference when it comes to a Neve. It's like these are focus-based transformers. The API brings more energy or leaves the energy of the low end and sacrifices the top end. The Neve does the opposite. It kind of crunches in the low end and emphasizes the mid-range and a little bit of the top end. And starting with the Orion, these peaks are kind of start to dwindle. You can hear the high frequencies kind of just cave off. Like the hi-hats get softer, the kicks are still there, but it sounds like there's nothing hitting with the kicks. It'll just start sounding like the kicks are hitting by themselves, because that's almost like the only thing that's driving the transients, especially when you get down to the 16 dB. You get the poke, a little poke, no poke. Why do we clip? Good point. Let me bring the mk2 down here, which is what everything is being sourced from. We're going to solo it, and then we're going to solo the version of the 14 dB increase, which represents on my Orion Studio Synergy, pushing this up 14 dB. We're going to see what that actually does to the track. So I feel like this is a perfect time for me to talk about my paranoia when it came to clipping. You see, about 10 years ago, when I was getting a little bit better at doing audio, I started learning that clipping in that red line means bad, like bad news, like politics bad news, that you don't want to cross this line. Like this threshold was near death scenario. And so I had trouble trying to wrap my mind around the facet of why would anybody want their song to clip? It's almost like me just scratching this chair and all of a sudden that we just lost its intrinsic value because I decided to let something happen to my precious audio file. Like once that happened, that was it. We had to take care of it. It wasn't a crisis. It was an emergency. Like we just, I don't know. For some reason, that red light to me was like sirens going off because I thought audio and mixing and producing was just that methodological to where a red light indicated a problem for a reason when it really wasn't meant to be a problem. It was meant to be an alert. It meant that you have reached a finite amount of volume or space inside of a dynamic range, yes, but it didn't mean the end of the world. It was just letting you know something. You can clearly hear a level difference going on here. That is just clipping it by maybe 2-3 dBs worth of chopping off information. You can tell that they don't really look that much different. Some transients look like they may have got enhanced because of the clipping and then the boosting, but there's still transient data inside of the clip version. They're just not as sharp. You'll see some areas like this where there's more balance in the kick, but overall, this wave file just looks a little bit thicker with a couple hairs that's kind of sticking out. And so that's what clipping rewards you with if you do it tastefully. If you overdrive it, then good luck to you. But tastefully and a good converter will merit you some extra headroom, because this is how much fuller it can sound before it hits the limiter with less requirement of the limiter to take care of some peaks like this right here. This sharp peak has been done away with by the clipper and allows for the rest of this to pop out. You can tell the sustain right here has now increased to this. So listen, I know that there's been sort of a crave of loudness that's been happening over a decade, longer than I've been doing audio. Just put it that way. But one thing that you can make sure of is that there's going to be a finite limit that you can push your song depending on how it's mixed, if it can actually be pushed to those limits. And if it can be pushed to those limits, that's good. If not, I mean, don't fight it. Use clipping as a tool to help you get there. But with everything, apply the gain staging, please, so you can at least hear the qualitative factor before you get into the quantitative factor. And I think that's what people get confused, what happens when they want to, whether to limit or whether to compress. They don't really know if they actually want to add a little bit distortion or roughness or character or edge, because you're going to get that with clipping, and the harder you push, the more you're going to get. It's not a bad sound. I even clip out of machine when I am producing and I have hard kick, snares, drums. I will hit the master on the machine and let those kicks clip, because in my genre I make no use of those peaks inside of a kick drum. Matter of fact, they're annoying. I don't need them. I need my kicks to hit at a certain level every time and not waver in their decision on whether or not they want to thump me in the chest or not. I just need them to thump. So, I mean, pick wisely. Clip some, limit some, find a healthy balance. Don't do more on one than the other if you're going to get more distortion. That's the key thing. Gain stage, listen. Does it have distortion? No. Gain stage, listen to the attack and release forms of the limiter. How does it work with the clipper? Gain stage. And then I feel like y'all will be all right.